And that is why we brought Hale on. Hale, give us your analysis of the horses at the SEC championship and the high jump and all those little barrel racing and all that stuff. What did you think about all that with the equestrian this season?
Yeah, I can't offer a whole lot other than, I like watching horses run around a circle. That's pretty entertaining for a minute or two.
It's called a rodeo.
Times each year. That?
So that's a rodeo, Hale. That's what we call a rodeo.
Oh, I was talking like the Kentucky Derby.
Oh, you like watching the fastest 2 minutes in sports is what you're saying.
That's right, yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm with you on that. All right. So you got the Masters, which they're on the course, of course, today, but, play begins tomorrow. Top of the Hale McGranahan sports bucket list. Where would you put the Masters?
Well, I've been lucky enough to go to a Saturday and Sunday. I went in 2002 when Tiger won.
Wow, really?
Yeah. So my dad, who was a sports reporter back in his day, so I was, I guess it would have been a junior in high school when I went. So he was covering the tournament for the Greenville News, and they had an extra badge for that weekend. So I was lucky enough to be able to go then.
That is fantastic. So did y'all have to leave the bag phone in the car?
Yeah. Fortunately, they still had payphones, I think, on the ground. So that was probably helpful for my dad when it came to work.
Yeah. Did you take anything home that day? Did you buy anything? Any memorabilia?
I did, yeah. So I've still got the little folding chair. I had a couple hats, and those eventually got lost over the years. But yeah, I guess that was about it then. And so I've been back twice since then. I went on Monday and walked through the gates and was there for like maybe 10 minutes, and they hit the siren, and had a similar experience a few years ago. But yeah, Sunday at Augusta for me is top of the sports bucket list, at least what I've done. I've never been to a Super Bowl, but that would be up there too.
Yeah, my top two, as far as I almost feel like you have to separate it a little bit, like events from, like games or something like that. Because who doesn't want to be in, Fenway Park for Game 7 of a World Series? You don't have to be a Red Sox fan to want to experience that, or Wrigley Field, or something like that. But then you got events, and I've never been to Augusta, I've been to Augusta. I've never been to the Masters. Which I just can't figure out how I've gone 40 years of life without doing that. But they turn me down every year, and the people that I do know never ask me to go, so I can't go. So you got that, and then the Derby. That's like 1A and 1B to me. I really want to go to the Kentucky Derby, and I don't know about all the frou-frou, clothing, Hale, but I certainly want to experience it. I don't have enough of the seersucker stuff to fit in, but I don't mind standing out either, I guess.
Yeah, you don't strike me as a frou-frou type of guy.
Not really. Nah, it's all good, man. I'd rather just be me, which is what gets me in trouble sometimes. All right. So were you at practice this morning?
They didn't. No, I don't think they practiced at all this morning. We'll be out there tomorrow, though.
Oh, tomorrow. I have my days mixed up. Yeah. So if you were there this morning, what do you think you would have seen? No, just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Not any type of depth chart related activity.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, we'll see how long this keeps going on. But from the practices that you have seen recently, how about that? Because you weren't on with us late last week, I don't believe. And were you? No. It's been a couple of weeks. Got some extended time last week. Hale? Hale? Oh, there you are. I didn't know if you just didn't want to answer that question. It's all good.
What happened there?
From the experience seeing them in the last week or so, what are your spring takeaways to this point? We've got about a little over a week to go until they play in the spring game.
Man, really not a lot. We don't get to see much of anything of actual substance other than guys doing drills and stretching. That's about the gist of it.
Yeah.
So other than just like seeing some of the guys in person, really in a lot of cases not even really all that close either. It's been pretty distanced, to say the least. So not much, honestly. There's you do get to see like quarterbacks taking snaps from centers, and I think just about every time they've begun doing that drill, Boaz Stanley has been with Lenore Sellers, and then they've rotated some. I guess the most interesting thing would be Marquis Anderson has been working at center. That to me is probably really the most of anything of any kind of substance, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, because he's been a guard. I mean, he played some at tackle. Everybody remembers that first spring game. He was playing left tackle. So, yeah, he's working in at center. And if he can stay healthy, I'll be interested to see what kind of role he carves out this year.
Yeah, I think that's actually, you just mentioned the word, the H word. I think that's such a big deal for some of the talented guys that they have, that they've brought in over the last couple of years. I mean, obviously, Marquis and Kaysen were brought in with high expectations, and rightfully so. They're really good football players, but they've had to deal with some bang ups from time to time. My understanding is, I know Kaysen didn't play on Saturday in the scrimmage, but as it pertains directly to Marquis Anderson, my understanding he is healthy at this point in time, right? You hadn't heard any different, have you?
No, I haven't. I mean, the one thing that I just kind of have in the back of my mind, and again, I haven't heard anything. I don't, as far as I know, he's healthy. I'm pretty sure Lonnie Teasley said as much a week or two ago when he was in with us. But I mean, Marquis did have some sort of a back injury. He's had one since he's been here, so I think just the general thought with those is they can maybe linger or pop back up, or they don't really like go away per se. As someone who's got a jacked up back myself, they tend to hang around. So that's just maybe one thing with him. But as far as I know, he's been out there and practiced and done everything that's been made available to him.
Yeah, these guys, you feel for them because they don't have a clue what's coming. They're going to get to our age one day. You sleep wrong and you can't walk for 72 hours.
Yeah,
I mean, that just happened to me not too long ago. But yeah, it in all seriousness, it is. I don't know that Marquis Anderson will be able to remove the if he's healthy tag from any discussion that you have about him until he's actually consistently playing in football games for the Gamecocks. Hale, that's what happens with linemen who go through injury issues. I mean, it was the same way for Kaysen, and then he finally got in there last year, and all that conversation started to dissipate.
Yeah, that's a great point with him. I mean, after he played just about every snap at right tackle this past season, I forgot real fast that he was perpetually injured for 2 seasons.
Yep.
Yeah.
It just sticks with you. We'll get to recruiting here in just a little bit, Hale, but because I mean, and I'm so glad that you said it the way that you said it about the fact that, look, when they do everything they can to give the media as much access as possible, but they're certainly not going to sit out there and show you all the state secrets while you're there. So you really only get a chance to look at some groups and some drill work, but you do get your eyeballs to an extent on the physicality sometimes, right, of the football team. And I had somebody point out to me not too long ago that, for the first time in a while around here, they're kind of plugging and playing a little bit. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to, when you lose stars or just plugging in stars, you got to go watch them play. I'm not going to go that far and say things like that. But there's been many seasons where you run out there in the spring and there's a noticeable difference in talent level. And this group, of course, just lost a bunch of talent. That's about to be proven, right, in the NFL draft coming up here in just a couple of weeks. There's going to be a bunch of names called. There's going to be a bunch of free agency signings after that. You're going to see just how much South Carolina is sending off to the NFL. But the eyeball test sometimes can go a little bit further than people want to give it credit for. And my understanding is that if you use that with this Gamecock football team here in 2025, it's telling you they got a good-looking group.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that, JB, is a result of the portal era and them being able to
100%
replace fully grown, developed players with more fully grown, developed players. Maybe not necessarily all the way developed, but guys who are older and have been playing college football for a couple years, which obviously that's been going on for 4 or 5 years now. But yeah, I mean, it's always going to be a thing where you would expect if you're bringing in 10 or more transfers every year, sometimes as many as like 20, that you're going to have some big physical looking fellas out there. But that's also for South Carolina specifically, not just like everyone with the portal, but that kind of speaks to what they've been trying to do with recruiting, whether it's from the portal or high school, with getting bigger, taller, longer arm defensive linemen, ends and tackles, and same. I guess you could say along the offensive line that's probably more so a product of just getting older, more physically developed guys. But but then there's the receiver group where you got guys like Malik Clark and Jordan Gidron, who are pretty well put together for freshmen, and Donovan Murph, when he gets here, will be the same way. So I guess that's my kind of roundabout answer of saying, like, yeah, it's the portal, but it's also like, hey, Carolina's got a plan, and they're trying to stick to it at some positions, like I just mentioned.
Yeah, Hale, I have been listening to these coaches talk and trying to decipher a couple of things, really more so along the lines of the structure of this football program under Shane Beamer and how they attack things, right? Like how they identify their strengths and their weaknesses and their needs and their wants, and then they go out and get it. And something you mentioned, the receivers. Something really stood out to me yesterday when I heard Mike Furry, and he mentioned in a roundabout way, look, we knew what we had returning in this room, and we elected, instead of going out to the portal, we elected to go with this young group, and it's going to be my job to get these guys ready to play by the time we get to August. Now, are all 6 of them going to be ready to play? Odds tell you at the level they need to be, probably not. And that's not a knock on Mike Furry or any football player. They're just a bunch of young freshmen. It's hard to get them all exactly where you want them to be able to contribute at a high level, right, in the SEC. But the construction of the room in general, and then, of course, you go look around at different position groups and look what they've done on the offensive line once again this year, right? Hell, they went – I didn't – at the end of the season, I don't think a lot of us really knew what they would do. Would they just continue to bring up the guys that they've already recruited and stick to the high school? Nope, they went out and they plugged, and they're plugging and playing again in the transfer portal. But this group here, we like our old guys. We're going to train the young guys. So, we just finished March Madness, and I'm trying to find a way to wrap all this together if you're following me here. The Florida Gators won the national championship. And none of the guys that they signed in the transfer portal were the top-tier dudes from Texas or North Carolina or something like that. They went out and found players that they needed to play within their system. And it looks to me like Shane Beamer and, his staff, Darren Usher and that whole group, and, of course, obviously the coaches, they all have some autonomy in being able to decipher through what they specifically want in their room. To be able to go out. Now, Shane's going to get the final call, clearly. But it looks like they've all got some autonomy to be able to decipher through specifically what they want when they evaluate those needs and wants. Can you add anything to that rambling of words that I just gave on some of that process?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of you see it with the types of linebackers that Clayton White's been bringing in. Donovan Darden, who's a big guy out of high school, same with Tayshawn Alston and Justin Okoronkwo, Justin Murphy, Fred Johnson. The list goes on and on. Like, they want to get bigger guys who are, in some cases, able to rush the passer because they played a lot of defensive end in high school. That's been something that's consistently showed up. In addition to what I was saying earlier about the tackles and ends as well. They've prioritized getting guys who look like Dylan Stewart and Desmond Umeozulu.
Good thing.
That's very calculated for sure. And Torian Gray has got his specs at cornerback. Basically, if you're not over 6 feet tall, you're probably not getting a scholarship to play DB at South Carolina under Torian Gray. I mean, DQ Smith might be the shortest guy we've seen in the secondary for the last few years, and he's obviously played a lot, but I think he's even like 6 feet. So there's definitely criteria that these guys consider and look at, and it's maybe not as rigid on offense at the skill positions, especially. I asked Mike Shule in the offseason what he looks for in a running back when he's evaluating running backs, because those 4 guys who are on scholarship right now are built pretty similarly in terms of height and weight. They're all real close. And he's not really married to like, hey, I want a guy who's 5'11", 220 pounds. Like he's of the mindset, from what I understand, stood him to say that he likes some variety and is not opposed to having different types of backs. So obviously everybody's different. Everybody's got their sort of way to go about building their positions, but it's again, this is very position by position specific with height, weight, arm length, potential for growth, that type of thing.
I actually think that it helps Shane Beamer retain staff too. This is your room. This is your job. Figure it out. Some guys go places where they got the head coach breathing down their neck all the time, Hale, and that's true as much as I do. But here you got a little ownership of being able to develop the way you want to develop. All right, let's talk about the guys that they'll eventually, hopefully, develop. What's the latest on Gordon Sellers?
Yeah, so he's going to visit South Carolina on Saturday. He was at Clemson last Saturday for their spring game, and then he's deciding next Friday. And the timing of that decision date came after he told me that he was going to visit South Carolina on April the 12th and again on April the 18th, which, as it turns out, is now his decision date. So for a while there, it wasn't totally clear whether he would come in for the visit on April the 12th, but he confirmed earlier this week that he will. So that's important that he's following through on that. And I think is going to be his last visit before he decides, unless he decides to go somewhere else within those 5 or 6 days. It looks like South Carolina will be the last one. Whether or not that ends up being the deciding factor, I don't know, but certainly doesn't hurt if you're South Carolina. And I think he's still in the process of making that final decision between Carolina and Clemson, obviously. I mean, he went to Michigan not long after he announced the decision date. That trip was already planned. I'm sure the flights were booked and arrangements were made and all that type of stuff. So he still did that. And of course, he announced the decision date, his commitment date, a day after he visited Ohio State and got the offer. So those are, I think, kind of the main 4, but it's probably more of a Carolina-Clemson battle, in my opinion. So we shall see. I honestly don't think he's made a final decision himself. So I don't know 100% which way he's leaning, but I think it's still up in the air.
He is listed at 6'2", 180 pounds, wide receiver out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and a 24/7 Sports composite ranking of 204 right now. Of course, that can go up or go down as things move along. So you're split right now on this. You don't really have a hunch as to which way he might go.
If I had to make a pick or make a guess, make an estimate, put in a crystal ball, I would probably do Clemson, but okay. I wouldn't feel great about it. That's the way I would sum that up.
Yeah, Mike Fury gets a chance this weekend. He's proven to be pretty lethal when he gets those opportunities. We'll see what happens there. Interesting situation with lineman Pierre Dean, who's out of Clemens, North Carolina, not to be confused with Clemens, South Carolina, as Lou Holtz once said, for anybody that maybe missed that. Who is Pierre Dean and what's the deal here?
Yeah, so he's a 4-star offensive lineman right now on 24/7. He's been a target for South Carolina since I think June of 2023 is when they offered him at camp. He came in and worked out as an offensive lineman for Lonnie Teasley and Greg Atkins, and up until about Sunday morning, it was my belief that he was being recruited as an offensive lineman to South Carolina and everywhere else. And he's at the Under Armour camp and works out with the defensive line, and looks pretty good doing it too, for that matter. And then tells folks afterwards that he's a defensive line recruit now, and that Georgia and Carolina are recruiting him as such, and Ohio State is kind of in the mix too. This came about while he was at Georgia for their pro day earlier this spring, and his half brother Jared Wilson, the center for Georgia last couple of years, I guess he was their center, was going through his pro day. So there's that connection. There's the fact that Georgia kind of broached this subject and he bought into it. So yeah, that to me sort of is a signal like maybe South Carolina's got its work cut out, but they've got an official visit scheduled in May, or that last weekend in May that I guess rolls into June 1st, that Sunday. And he's scheduled to go to Georgia the following weekend. And I think this upcoming weekend he'll be at Ohio State for an unofficial visit. But that's sort of where he's at. He made a formal top 3 announcement yesterday, I guess it was. But he said on Sunday that Carolina and Georgia were his top 2.
Yeah, I guess, Hale, if you follow it long enough, you'll hear things that you never thought you'd hear. And that's certainly one of them. So Georgia could help South Carolina pick up a defensive lineman, is what I'm hearing.
And I don't know. I doubt it. I doubt it.
I mean, wow. All right. That's interesting. And nobody else ever brought this up. They were recruiting him as an offensive lineman. Georgia says, you're a defensive lineman. He says, okay, let everybody know. That's pretty much the gist of this thing.
I think so. I mean, he's all right. If you see him, he's a pretty streamlined guy. Like there was a picture he posted. He visited South Carolina in December for one of the ball practices. There was a picture he posted standing with Lenoris. And if you look at the picture, you're like, that guy's an offensive lineman for real.
Okay.
And like he just doesn't look like he's got like the big wide frame, because he doesn't. Not that Lenoris is a little guy, but he looked about the same size as Lenoris. So now he said he's apparently like 255. Apparently he's lost about 10 or 15 pounds. So yeah, I mean, just looking at the guy, and there are a lot of people who read the Big Spur who know exactly what I'm talking about if they're listening. Yeah, I think for him, it's probably makes some sense that he would be a defensive lineman, just because there aren't a whole lot of SEC offensive linemen who are kind of built like he is.
Yeah. Well, Lenoris is a big guy, but he doesn't look like an offensive lineman. So
no.
There's some similarity there then. No. Well, it makes sense to everybody but his high school coaches, who are probably going, son of a bitch, we just lost our best offensive lineman.
No, I mean, he plays some defensive line. I think he plays a lot more I think he's more of an offensive lineman for them, but okay. He's definitely played defensive line in high school. It wasn't like a totally out of the blue thing.
Okay. Yeah, I was about to say, they're like, you can go ahead and go on to Georgia if that's what you're going to do, pal. All right. How about the Harris brothers? What's going on with Aiden Harris and Andrew Harris?
Yeah, so Aiden is a 4-star defensive lineman. And he told Alex Jones at the camp, Under Armour camp on Sunday, that he was probably going to visit today. So we need to figure out if that's confirmed or not. Stay tuned to the Big Spur for more on that.
Oh,
everybody.
Nice.
So yeah, they're possibly visiting today. Aiden was saying on Sunday that he might be ready to make a decision before the end of the month, as long as Andrew, his twin brother, is ready to do so. They want to go to the same school.
Okay.
So yeah, that's sort of where things are at with them. They could be deciding soon. They could be visiting today. They are definitely, for now at least, scheduled to visit officially. I think it's the June 6th weekend. So yeah, a couple things are sort of up in the air with those guys right now here in the very short term.
Well, if I was Shane Beamer, and Shane, if you're watching, I hope you will take my advice. I'd call in the Lindsay twins on this one. Get a hold of Dusty, get a hold of Jordy, get them out of that barbecue truck and get them into the facility, and see if they can't literally twist their arms, because they're good at doing that. and lock them down. Bring the Brinkley boys back. Shane knows all these guys. He coached them. Bring the Brinkleys in. Bring the Lindsays in. The Lindsays will be there next week if you're going to the spring game. As far as I know, I can confirm this. We get John Strickland on the phone, but I'm pretty sure the barbecue truck's going to be over there in Gamecock Park. Get them out of that thing. Get them in the facility. Bring the Dixons back. Gerald and Gerald.
The Kilgores are already here.
Yeah. Well, I was getting to them, but you got to go back. You got to go back further. You know what I mean? You got to start with the old guys. You got to bring them in, and then all of a sudden you got all these. Well, the Dixons were not twins. They're half brothers, I think. Technically,
yeah, and Jalen and Gerald Kilgore aren't twins either. So
no,
but they're brothers.
But they're brothers. But these are twins.
Yeah.
So you got to start with you got to go back and get Jordy and Dusty, and get the Brinkleys because they were twins. And then you bring the brothers. This thing will be a slam dunk. It'll be over before you know it. Shane doesn't have to do anything else. They'll be done.
And we haven't even talked about the Sellers brothers yet. So again, not twins, but still,
Yeah, I'm seeing it. This is impressive stuff what they're doing here. That you can kill two birds with one stone just by signing an entire family of players. And then you have less money on the recruiting trail. This is brilliant. I like what they're doing. Well done, Shane Beamer and staff. Well done. Yeah, where's Usher? Usher, well done.
All Travian Robertson.
Travian. Well done, Travian. Guy's a machine. He's a machine. For all the junk he took from recruiting, he's sure in on a bunch of players. Outside of that, you got a bunch of. I mean, there's a ton of guys. Hey, we could do this for the next 5 hours. I want to ask you about Ben Boulware, the defensive lineman out of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Gamecocks are hitting the state of North Carolina incredibly hard right now. What's going on with this guy? He's no relation to the guy who played with people's butts at Clemson, right? They're not related, right?
No.
Okay. They're not brothers.
Okay. So Ben Boulware, what's the latest with him?
Don't really know a whole lot about the latest per se. I mean, he's scheduled for an official visit. I believe he's been down at least once or twice. So yeah, definitely a name we're keeping an eye on. I mean, the state of North Carolina in 2026, I believe we've talked about it before, about it being incredibly loaded with talent, especially at defensive tackle in particular. There are a ton of good players in that state at that position. And then it's obviously a big one of need for Carolina. And Travian Robertson is from the state of North Carolina. And Ben Boulware is one of several guys they're in on. So is Aiden Harris and Noah Clark.
Yeah, you talked to Noah Clark this past weekend, didn't you?
I did, yeah. His first offer was from Travian Robertson back in 2023 that fall. Can't remember which game it was that he was at, but he got it around then and has been a priority ever since. He was in town last week, watched practice, and has the official visit. Could be in excuse me, could be in with his team when they're doing an offensive line and defensive line camp and 7-on-7. He might come and hang out with them for that as well. So, Ben Boulware is one of many in that state at that position.
There's a lot. You mentioned being 6 feet and taller to play in the secondary for Torian Gray. Samari Matthews and Tamarian Watkins are both that. Watkins is a little over 6'3", I think is my understanding, as a matter of fact, out of Rock Thrill, South Carolina. Well, he plays for Northwestern. So do I need to call Paige and get this deal done? Is that what we need to do?
Him or Dave Cloninger, one or the other. I don't know. Dave's a big Northwestern guy.
Yeah. Let me get on the horn with Paige and see if we can't get this deal done before the spring game next week so he can announce it there or something like that. But these two guys are big time, and everybody wants them. Where's Carolina stand with them?
Yeah, Samari's visited South Carolina more than any other school. He's been probably the top cornerback on South Carolina's board for 2026 since his freshman year. I mean, he's really good, obviously, and it's Clemson or Carolina, basically, or excuse me, Carolina or Clemson. It's been that way for a while. Others have floated in and out. Florida State's kind of around still. Texas is emerging, but at the end of the day, I think it'll be either the Gamecocks or Tigers for him. And then it's Marion Watkins, who put out a top 5 on Sunday, that also included Georgia, Alabama, Miami, and A&M. I believe were the 5 with South Carolina, obviously. And I think it'll probably be South Carolina in the end for him. I've got the crystal ball in, but he's got official visits scheduled to most of those 5, and that's sort of where we're at with those 2.
All right, final 2 questions, and then I'll let you get to lunch, Hale. Quarterback, give us an update on the recruitment of the quarterback position, if there is one.
Don't really have one. Waiting to see if Landon Duckworth takes an unofficial visit. Excuse me. Sorry, my throat's getting dry.
Yeah, that's my fault. We kept you on too long again.
It's okay. We can blame the pollen too. But yeah, waiting to see if Duckworth takes an unofficial before his official later this summer. And Brady Smigel, who obviously just took an unofficial a week or so ago, waiting to see if he gets an official schedule. That's kind of the latest with those 2.
Okay. Go ahead, JC.
I think Smigel will schedule an official.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably safe to say. Yeah. I heard that yesterday, Hale, and I meant to text you, but I forgot. I'm sorry. Okay.
My bad. So breaking news, man.
Oh, well, that's just
there you go.
All right, so kind of leads me to the final one here. What are you expecting from a visitor's standpoint for the spring game, and just as a courtesy to our audience, at some point in time next week, will you have some sort of list out, a published list of those who will be in for it?
Yeah, I'll be doing plenty of that next week for sure.
Okay.
And I don't know. I don't want to give out like a date or anything like that.
Oh, no, I'm not asking for I don't mean that. I just people look forward to that. I think every year you do it. You put out here's who's expected in for the spring game and stuff like that. I was just
that's fine. I mean, I do it for really any weekend there's going to be visitors. So yeah, there'll definitely be some. I mean, it happens every week on the Big Spur. Thanks for.
I do it all the time, Jamie. It's not just the spring game. I don't just wake up the week of the spring game and publish a list. No, I know.
Yeah, I mean there will be a lot of guys there for sure. There's going to be plenty of 26s and 27s. I don't know. Maybe we'll even hear about some 28s.
28s.
28s. Yeah.
Sweet mother, yeah. I'll be dead by then. Hale. I mean, all right.
I hope not. I don't want you to be dead by then.
Well, what year is it? What year is this?
25.
2025.
Oh no, I'll be all right. I'll be.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I didn't. I thought it was COVID.
Later than that.
God. It's already 2029.
Hey, you age quicker covering recruiting because you're always working on
the next
year. Yeah. So like we're in the 2026 cycle, but we're a long way from 2026. So
that's for sure.
Maybe they should. Well, I guess it's still based on your technically your graduating year of high school, technically, but everybody signs in the calendar year now. So, I'm responsible for that. Everybody was said, well, this year's recruiting this year. You kept saying year, and I kept putting cycle in my article, and so I coined that phrase when I was at Rivals in 24/7.
Man, you should have Robert Brooks that thing, man. If you would have just
trademarked,
like Lambeau Leap, you wouldn't be doing this. You'd be on a beach somewhere.
It's open source code, brother. Because I in my mind, I was like, well, it's not really a year. So what do we call it? And I called it a cycle.
Hale, did you know that? When did we talk to Robert Brooks? Probably 2 or 3 years ago. Probably right, 2-3 years ago, somewhere there.
Yeah.
Okay. Y'all remember that? I didn't know he had done that. He trademarked Lambeau Leap because he started it, Hale.
That's the first I've heard that. I did not know that.
Yeah. So every single year, I went and looked this up just to make sure that Robert Brooks wasn't lying to my face, and he wasn't. It might not be every year. It's every 1, 2, 3 years, whatever they sign. But all of the major networks, all the 3-letter networks and the 4-letter network, in order to use the phrase, they have to cut him a check to be able to do that.
That's brilliant.
Brilliant.
That's brilliant.
The Green Bay Packers can't print it on a T-shirt or anything unless they're paying him. And I don't know how he does it. Percentage. I don't think he got into all that, whether it's a percentage or a flat fee or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's mailbox money.
I can't believe we haven't seen anyone in the comment section say something about him giving money for NIL.
Well, it's probably coming now.
Living his best life, man. He lives in Phoenix, plays golf all the time.
Where's my
Living
man?
his best life.
Before I get off the air, my Stuart Lake's going to be calling, hey, do you have Brooks' cell phone number?
Yeah, right.
my man, Coach Lake, going to be all over it before they hop
Somebody hit
on
up Darren Usher.
Do what?
Yeah.
Somebody hit up Darren Usher. Let him know.
Darren, yeah, someone's got to get to work. But yeah, it's a brilliant move. So I've been ever since that conversation. I've thought about, what could I trademark that would just piss the whole world off that they'd have to send me a check in order to do it.
Good afternoon and good morning.
That's right. Greetings.
And good morning. Yeah. Well, yeah. You used to say good afternoon and good morning.
Greetings and
now
good
you
morning.
say greetings and good morning.
I used to say greetings and good afternoon.
Yeah. Okay. It's yeah. But you say it every day. It's your catchphrase.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I actually have never had a catchphrase.
Yeah.
I maybe need to get one.
We'll workshop that in the next couple hours.
We'll workshop that. Yeah.
Who wins the Masters, Hale? Who's your pick?
I'm going to go Colin Morikawa.
Wow. Good choice.
Oh.
Love it.
Yeah.
It's a great